Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to OCA Greater Houston's Happy Fest. My name is Jennifer Nguyen, and I'm a volunteer for OCA. And today I will be your moderator for this Happy Fest Q&A. If you're joining us on YouTube, remember that you can leave your comments and questions in the live chat right there, I believe. And yeah, with that, I would like you all to give a warm welcome to our guest, Sheridan O'Donnell, the director of Flush.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching.
Right. Along with him, we have Lauren Chavez-Myers, who is the lead actress for Sam.
Hello.
And Sofia Embid, the lead actress for Nick.
Hi.
Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for making it today. We really appreciate your time to just come and talk about your film. And yeah. So I'm going to start off by addressing like the inspiration for your film, Sheridan. From my understanding, it came from specific encounters with two women in your life. One was your sister, and the other was a very close family member who was going through a miscarriage. So I was wondering, why did you choose to pair these women's experiences in particular together? Like, why not a marriage or like a divorce or a girl going through her period for the first time? Like, why birth and miscarriage?
Originally, the first idea was about my sister becoming a new mother, and that was just a character idea I had because I felt like a lot of performances I'd seen on screen about first-time mothers were either, you know, one way or another. They were either like kind of these women who was comedic and farcical, or women who were like overcoming things and like empowered, and there was not this kind of gray area that I hope the film lives in. And I thought that just that idea alone and just a character alone wasn't enough. I feel like most of my movies are two ideas kind of clashing together. And then when I spoke with my family member who told me that they had a miscarriage and that they told me years later that it had happened to them and they had kind of kept it from me, I really became interested in why they felt like they didn't want to share it and why a woman would feel like they wanted to keep that private. And that became another character that I was interested in exploring. And then it just really clicked for me that I was like, oh man, it would be really interesting to have these two women be in the same room together. Originally they were sisters and then they became friends. And I think that dynamic of the mother who has all this to get off her chest, speaking so much, being so verbal, and the Nick character is much more withdrawn, and really the power of her character is what she's not saying. I thought that would be an interesting dynamic. So yeah.
Yeah, and I personally thought you did a great job illustrating like the two characters and like their dynamics together. So I really like that about your film. For Lauren and Sofia, I was just wondering, how do you both personally feel the conversation can help women who are also going through motherhood and miscarriage?
Wow. It's a big question. The biggest thing that I've really noticed when it comes to these conversations is just like we don't typically have them. I think there were a lot of people in my life who up until recently, like I never knew had miscarriages. Like it was almost kind of this like shameful thing. And there were very few people in my life who also spoke about motherhood in a way that wasn't all like roses and rainbows. I remember one time my cousin made a comment to me about how she honestly feels about her son sometimes. And it was like funny, but it was also like, wow, you don't hear people kind of speak about their kids as humans. And so it was really refreshing, I think, to be able to have these conversations and know that they were coming from like an authentic and honest place, and knowing that it's a way of just talking about it can really help people.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that our culture kind of has a singular narrative that they want to promote about pregnancy and motherhood and womanhood, and it can really shame women from, I mean, heartbreaking that Nick can't talk to her best friend, but I think that's really real, that there's a lot of women who are suffering in silence and grieving in silence. And, we just need to embrace the diversity of narratives around pregnancy and motherhood that we have in this country. And it should never be shameful to go through something like this. So it was really great getting to work on this, to be able to talk about these things that affect all of us, regardless of if you're a mother, if you're not a mother, if you had an abortion, if you had a miscarriage, if you've never been pregnant, whatever. I just want all of us to be able to talk about it and be open about these things.
Yes, and I really like the point that you made about women always feeling the need to keep their struggles inside and them suffering in silence. And one thing I noticed is that this film is encased in incredibly powerful language, where the scenes void of dialogue were sometimes even more revealing than the verbal dialogue. So I was wondering, Sheridan, was this an intentional decision?
It was intentional, but I think it was organic. The last short that I did was completely silent. There wasn't any dialogue at all. And that was kind of a challenge I put upon myself to see if I could tell a story strictly through visuals and even have an audience empathize with the character purely through visuals and be able to understand what's going on without being told anything. This time around, I really wanted to do the complete opposite, and very inspired by a lot of plays and a lot of theatrical works. And Lauren has a lot of theater experience, and we kind of approached it like I think we were doing a play. I knew that it was going to be a lot of talking, kind of nonstop. And at the same time, I think the last short that I did just really taught me when to use silence as well. So it was all about the contrast, I think. I'm rambling a bit, but I think it's about like giving the audience something and taking it away, or taking it away and then giving it back to them. Like that kind of push and pull and the transformation that the narrative goes through is what I was interested in, is having it change, not just be one thing. I wanted it to be funny and then intimidating and then ultimately cathartic, and try to make a film that could make you experience a lot in a short amount of time. So I hope that comes through.
Yeah, and in the end, I really feel that your film, like the way you put it together, was very empowering. And on that note, I just wanted to remind all of us that it's important to remember that 2020 is a census year and an election year. So filling out the census and voting are crucial to empowering our voices as Americans. So why do you all think it's important, even during lockdown, to do our due diligence as citizens of America, or just Americans in general?
I mean, it's a pivotal moment every single decade. It it helps us plan out how much funds every state is allocated, their congressional leaders. You want to make sure that your funding and your politicians are, equitably representing your community and your constituents. So, oh my gosh, please fill out your census.
Yes, definitely. Do any of y'all have anything else to add on to that?
Well, I'm coming from New Mexico, and we have some tragically underfunded communities here. So it's really important to get that funding and that representation, especially for places like New Mexico that kind of can fly under the radar.
Right. Also, for your next project, Sheridan, it's called Little Brother, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I read that it was centered around a sibling relationship, and it will be your first ever feature film. So do you plan to illustrate the human connection more intimately through the longer film?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways this film was kind of a springboard into what it would be like to examine characters with a lot of dimension and like be able to basically direct actors and work with actors and try to challenge myself to be more actor oriented. Because I think early on when you make films, it's all about the visuals, and then you realize very quickly that Performers are the heart of everything, and human beings on screen are why we go to the movies. So my script is a lot of that. It's a completely different. It's about suicide and depression. It's not about miscarriage and pregnancy and being a new mother, but it is like a sort of a spiritual sequel or expansion of something like Flush, where I tried to make something multidimensional in the emotions. But I'm very excited about it, and we are currently, in the process. I just moved to LA early this year, and that was kind of spurred on by trying to get that film made. And I wrote it 3 years ago, and I have a lot of goodwill behind it, but it's a battle getting an independent film made, especially right now. There's a lot going on that's going to make it interesting, but we're not deterred, and we're excited for opportunities like this to show that audiences still care about seeing films and that they can be important, I think.
Yes, of course. And before we end, I have one last question for you guys. If the audience would like to watch your film again or share with a friend, how can they view or purchase this film?
We're still on our festival run, which I've contemplated adapting because of this new climate we're in, but we're still going to press on and not go online just yet. So my website, I've been posting a lot of updates about the film, and when it finally does go live, which will be maybe by the end of this year or something, we'll do an online premiere, but it's not VOD yet. It's not for streaming or purchase yet. So,
but they can find updates on Instagram too at Flush Film, right?
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much, Sheridan, Lauren, and Sophia for joining us tonight. Remember, you can follow them on their social media. And with that, I hope you three have a wonderful evening tonight.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you so much for this.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And before we end, I'd like to acknowledge the current racial injustices, particularly against our Black communities, which is very important at this moment. We as Asian American and Pacific Islanders are standing in solidarity with Black Lives Matter. So please remember to visit tinmural.com/BLMAAPI to learn more concrete Houston-specific ways to be involved. Next up, we do have another narrative short, which is called Halwa. This will be followed by a live Q&A with the co-writer and co-director. And we'll see you all again very shortly. Enjoy the show.